Next up, to discuss how Uber is electrifying rideshare at scale, please welcome moderator Mark Watts, Executive Director of C40 Cities, and panelists Michael Samulon, Capital Programs Chief in the Office of Major Events for the City of LA, and Tessa Sanchez, Head of Sustainability Policy at Uber.
Thank you, Matt, for the cheer. Hello, everybody. Fantastic to be here. I'm Mark Watts, Executive Director of C40 Cities, which is a network of major cities working together on climate change around the world, of which Los Angeles has been a major partner. And I'm standing up here before we start a conversation on the seats because we've got a fantastic announcement to get started in this afternoon session. C40 is today launching, in partnership with Uber and the City of Los Angeles, Plug into LA. It's I guess, all of us are here today because we know that events like this present an opportunity to create transformative long-term change in a city, a legacy that can last for residents long after the Games have happened. It's something I recognise well. I worked on London's bid to host the Olympics, going back quite a long time now, which was an opportunity to regenerate some of the lowest income parts of the city. I worked with the mayor in Rio around the times they were hosting the Olympics and saw that transformation of the city. And of course, we've seen what's happened in Paris in 2024, as well as what's happening across North America at the moment, in the US, Canada and Mexico around the World Cup Games, prioritising streets for people as part of the gatherings for those games. And of course, in most recent Olympic memory in Paris in 2024, we saw real transformative long-term changes, the expansion of metro and rail lines, hundreds of kilometres of new bike lanes, huge amounts of additional pedestrian area, and giving back public space to the city, to people rather than cars. And seeing here how the World Cup Games have allowed cities to trial new initiatives, like in Seattle, where the newly pedestrian priority Pike Place Market is hosting World Cup viewings and events, building support for long-term pedestrianisation in that iconic space, which supports residents, visitors and small businesses operating at the market. So the city there is making extensive investments and efforts to ensure that visitors can use a clean, convenient public transport network during the Games, but we also know that hundreds of thousands of visitors to the Games will rely on ride-hailing services to support their journeys during the Games. And we've seen how that can work in the recent Super Bowl. Uber rides across San Francisco spiked significantly during the week of the game. And we know that rides will rise during the Olympic Games too, with more opportunities for drivers to earn during big events. Going electric can maximise their income even more. So the new initiative that we are announcing today, Plug into LA, is intended to take advantage of the momentum of the Games to support 500 working drivers and create a catalytic impact that we believe can influence many more drivers. So that will mean thousands more quiet, clean, electric miles driven on LA streets during the Games and after. And for C40, our mission is to deliver city-led action which supports an inclusive transition to sustainable cities. This campaign will deliver that by working directly with drivers to offer them support that they need to be part of a thriving and sustainable urban transport network. There are going to be thousands of dollars of incentives on the table for drivers to transition to electric vehicles. There's never been a better time to choose an EV. We know that many drivers may not know about the incentives that are on offer, or need support to know what they are, what they're eligible for, how to access those funds. So Plug in LA will do all of that, remove the barriers by providing EV clinics, hands-on support to navigate rebates, and community events to build driver confidence and accelerate adoption. And this builds on the work that Uber and C40 have been doing together globally in a number of cities around the world, trying to accelerate electric charging infrastructure for high mileage drivers. LA is, we think, really the perfect place to take the next step to creating a cleaner transport system ahead of the 2028 Games, and building a model then that we hope many other cities will be able to follow with all the different kind of big events that happen across our major cities. So to talk a little bit more about this partnership, why it matters, what it can deliver for LA and how it can affect the rest of the world, I'm now going to sit down and take the mic as I turn to Tessa over here.
Hi, Mark.
As I go. Tessa, thank you first of all. It's been a really fantastic opportunity for C40 to work with Uber. But taking us back, can you just explain why high mileage drivers need to be such a focus, and why we've decided that LA is the right place to launch this partnership?
Yeah, absolutely. First, hi everyone. My name's Tessa Sanchez. Thanks you for having us, and thanks so much to Lacey for putting on this event. And yeah, we're really excited to announce Plug into LA today. So why focus on high mileage drivers? If the goal is really to reduce transportation emissions, you really need to focus on the people who drive the most. It's quite intuitive, right? Ride-hail drivers, they are on the road for hours every single day. We are driving our highest mileage drivers are driving around 200 miles a day. So if you think about maybe what you drive kind of every day, like it might be kind of like 4 or 5x what the normal driver is driving. So if you can convert one of those drivers to an EV, you get a reduction in emissions, you get reduced gas usage, and you get more EV miles on the road, more than you would have if you kind of transition just a personal vehicle. So it can be, we're talking a lot about catalysts today. It can be a great catalyst, and I think one of the really most effective avenues for accelerating transportation electrification. And I think the beauty of it is that it's not just good for climate, but it's also good for the drivers themselves, and then also for riders on the Uber platform. Drivers are increasingly choosing EVs because it, lower gas price with lower gas, like no gas, which I think is especially salient in this moment right now when you go outside and look how much the cost of gas is in LA, and then also really reduce maintenance. Riders also really love EVs. They like a more high-tech ride. They like a quieter ride. They like one for all of those things. And then, in fact, globally, 1 in 4 riders tell us that their first ever experience in an EV was in an Uber. So that's, I think, also pretty incredible to think. Oh, there's a bad echo. Oh, yeah. It's a really, really good way to accelerate. So LA, I think, is the right place to do this because the city's already a leader in transportation electrification. There's a really robust charging network that exists. It's one of the biggest ride-hail markets. And in fact, already on the Uber platform, 1 in 5 miles today on the platform is already kind of driven in an EV. So I think there's a good basis there. Now, there are still a lot of barriers for drivers getting into EVs, and I think that's what this partnership is really meant to tackle. Upfront cost of the vehicle, still a big concern for drivers, still a big challenge. The cost of charging is actually becoming a more increasing challenge that drivers are vocalizing to us. And then also just there's a kind of myriad of programs and incentives that they need to navigate that I think could really help with hand-holding. I think we do a global survey, and drivers, like less than 50% even are aware of incentives that are available to them. And there's actually, I think, a lot of money on the table still. It's really a shame that the federal tax credit went away, but at the local level, there's still incentives available, either whether it's through at the state or at the utility level as well. So I think like there needs to be, that's like what this partnership is intended to do. And then as far as, hello, okay. And I think just to wrap it up, LA 28 is just, I think it's an opportunity to raise the bar. I think we've heard that a lot today. And I think it's going to be a great blueprint for future host cities as well.
Fantastic. And it's a very interesting point that a future EV driver's first experience of being an EV might well be in an Uber. As I moved to Michael also, there was a good LA piece of news wrapped up in that in some of the other cities we've worked in, we've focused on getting the charging infrastructure in the right place where drivers live. But here, the charging infrastructure is extensive enough. Is this Mike? It's still, yeah. Is extensive enough that we haven't needed to do that, and it's focusing on the incentives for drivers. But Michael, I know you want to talk about clean concrete, but instead we're going to stay on topic here. How does this partnership, how's it going to support LA's broader transportation and sustainability goals looking forward to the 2028 games, and how important is it for you to accelerate the adoption of EVs at scale?
Thank you. There is nothing like the Olympics. Having been in this office for almost a dozen years now, having been awarded, I think in 2016 or 2017, we have been able to point to the Olympics as, hey guys being everyone in the city, we have this thing coming in 10, 11 years. This is our moment. This is the time to make all of the wonderful changes that we want to make and to improve Los Angeles, to make Los Angeles the city we all know that it can be. And I have to say this. First off, we want people on public transit. We've done a ton of public transit improvements, so that, of course, is number one, first thing we have to say. However, we're going to have somewhere between 3 and 5 million people coming to visit during the games, and we know not everyone is going to be in our new trains or in our wonderful buses. So we would rather have them be in a shared vehicle than necessarily renting their own vehicle for their whole time here. And it really makes it a perfect opportunity to the point that both Tessa and Mark brought up, hit these very, very high mileage vehicles. I was doing some back of the envelope math based on these 200 miles a day, and with just 500 vehicles converting ahead of the games, we could be talking about 25 million electric miles over a year. So 500 is not a lot of people, but there's a lot of friction on the way to get a human to sign the paperwork and go to the dealership and learn about the charger rebate and these kind of things, which they're all out there. As part of this effort, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of wonderful nonprofits and other partners who the city works with and who are working in this field and have been for 10, 15, 20 years here in Los Angeles. So the knowledge infrastructure is there, but also the rebate and incentive infrastructure is there from both the state and here in LADWP territory from our utility. So what we want to accomplish with this new campaign is meet the drivers where they are. Are they at LA Exit? Are they at Union Station downtown? Where are they? Let's put on a ride and drive near them. Let's make sure they can actually come out and learn. Maybe we can have dealerships there and helping to say, hey, no big deal. You've got your 4,000 from Uber, and you've got up to 4,000, 4,500 from DWP. We're going to take that right off the hood, and you can get this used car for, I don't know, 10 grand or something like that. We really want to just make it possible, make it quick, and make it easy so that people don't have a reason to say no. So I know from our vantage point, it is starting with these 500 so that we can get to 5,000 and 50,000 or whatever it happens to be after that. And we're extraordinarily excited. We aren't going to host the Olympics again for maybe another 30 or 40 years. So we really want to take advantage of this. And the circumstances are right. The vehicles are out there. The drivers I think most people are comfortable with it these days. There's enough of them, so you just help them make that final push to get into an electric vehicle. So I think that's where we're really heading as a city.
I could just say something additional on incentives. It's I think like a pretty interesting time. Like even in the last couple of weeks, it was mentioned earlier about Governor Newsom signing the new on the hood for incentive for first-time buyers, which I think is going to be like our drivers are going to be really interested in. And then I think there's also a lesser-known program that the CPUC just announced. I think it's going to be called the RIDE program. It is completely targeted towards ride-hail drivers, and eligible drivers can get $20,000 for a new EV and then $14,000 for a used EV. And then additionally, there is going to be, I think it's around $1,200 for a charge card for fast charging, because ride-hail drivers are, as you might imagine, like they're really reliant on the public fast charging network. So I think that that's going to be like a really big difference maker. And so when Michael talks about 500 to 5,000 and maybe 50,000, like this, I think in the next couple of years, we're going to see just an explosion of EV drivers on the Uber platform.
Well, let's hope so. Those are pretty big incentives. Our countdown clock has finished counting down. So just a reminder, the initiative is called Plug into LA. You can find it on our website, plugintola.org. We're looking for other partners to join this campaign, so if anybody is interested, talk to Michael, Tessa, myself here over the next day or so, or have a look on the website. But for now, thank you all very much, and a big round of applause for Michael and Tessa. Thank you.